And hello, everybody. Welcome to Harry Man Hoaxes and Hoodwinks. I hope everybody had a great week. It seemed like it just flew right on by. And we've already got a lot of people in the chat. We've got Western New York Bigfoot, Joe, Mary Wilson, Outcast, Lester, of course. Thank you very much for coming. Sandra, of course, I appreciate you coming on. So let me go right on about. I've got such a great show tonight. I've got some wonderful ladies that are going to be coming on and talking with me today, and I'm so excited to introduce them. Um, Show entitled "Women of the Woods," and that's what I have brought you. So, without further ado, I am going to go ahead and bring on my first special guest, and that is Miss Kathy Strain. She is a Heritage Resource and Tribal Relations Programs Manager. Oops, that was my fault. I took you out again. Um, for the Stanislaus, is that how you pronounce?
Close.
Stanislaus National Forest in Sonora, California. She has a master's in anthropology, conducts research on Native American cultures and traditional Bigfoot beliefs. And her book, this book right here, Giants, Cannibals, and Monsters, Bigfoot and Native Cultures, covers the subject in depth, including 154 stories from 57 tribes throughout the North America. Kathy's also on the board of directors for the nonprofit Alliance and Independent Bigfoot Researchers, and a member of the North American Wood Ape Conservancy. So that's just amazing, all the work you've done. And I've seen you in so many different shows, History Channel, and matter of fact, I was just telling you that I saw you yesterday on the Proof. What was it called? The Proof is out there on the History Channel.
Yeah.
So welcome,
Well,
welcome
thank
to
you
the
for having
show.
me.
I appreciate you coming on and talking a little Bigfoot tonight.
No problem. Thank you.
Next, we're gonna skip over and bring on Miss Monta Withers. Welcome.
Thank you.
She had experience early on in life, and after that, she began her quest to find the elusive Sasquatch with her best friend, Kathy Strain. So the
There she is.
oh, Montra was a former curator with the Bigfoot Field Research Organization. She's trained on deception detection, which is amazing, and immersed in the world of paranormal for over 39 years, investigating with ghost hunting groups.
I feel old.
She currently co-hosts a television show, Paranormal Journeys, with Jackie Mitter. Is that how you see her?
Meter. Yeah.
Meter.
Yep.
And she runs her group, Tri-City Paranormal. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure, really. We're gonna bring on Miss Melissa Adair. Welcome, Melissa. She is the original Bigfoot chick. And she has her Bigfoot chick adventures and is part of the Squatch Unlimited Bigfoot Research Group. So welcome.
Thank you.
We're next gonna bring on Miss Monica Rawlins. Monica's been researching Sasquatch and other cryptids for 20 years across the western and southern US. And she's been on Travel Channel's Weird Travels and Monster Quest. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And of course, my lovely co-host, JC, Jennifer. Welcome. She's my biologist out of Colorado who has the most wonderful insight into questioning people. So beware, you are fairly warned. No, she's wonderful. She has a great mind for the scientific side of looking at stuff, not just what, but where, why, when. She's all about those questions on how things happen to us. So ladies, welcome again. And so that both the people in the chat and people who are watching out there, a little bit about me. I'm not sure if I quite went into what my beliefs were. I think that was me.
That was me. Sorry.
I'm not sure.
I'm trying to make it stop.
But I'm a believer. I'm a believer in Sasquatch. I have been for a very long time, but I'm not a knower. I was just one of those avid campers who love to go out into the woods and explore and hike and do that type of stuff. But I've always seemed to find answers to all those mysterious little, sounds in the woods, even if it was running into a skunk chasing that sound. So, but the desire to go out was always there and to research it on my own. So I became one of those dreaded armchair researchers in the community for quite a long time, and still to this day, and got to come to know many people in the community and just made such good friends. And their stories are unbelievable. And even though they're anecdotal, I believe them. And I just don't think that there's this mass hysteria out there about Bigfoot. I'm not a knower, so I haven't seen one, but I still believe. And I want to be the person to hold history. I like to remember about what's happened throughout our community since its inception, in regards to like Facebook, and things that have come out and hoaxes, because that was something that always burst my bubble. Is that I would believe in something and 2 days later I would find out, oh, it was a guy in a suit, or it was somebody, just playing a joke or what have you. And 5 years later, the same picture would come up again. And people would fall into that same trap over and over again. And I think we've all been there, where you see that same photo pop up, every year. And we're like, oh my God, is somebody going to tell them? Well, that's where Hairy Man Hoaxes kind of is coming from, where I just wanted to use this platform to show some stuff that had evidence behind it, where there's many good researchers in the community who have come up with enough evidence to support the idea of hoaxes. Whether it be they found or created the hoax, the Bigfoot costumes on Amazon, what have you. And that's where, I want people to know. I don't want it to be pushed off to the side, because that's what irks me the most about the hoaxers out there, that every year somebody will grab a photo and just throw it out there for anybody to see. I feel like we need to make teachable moments for our community. They need resources and places to find the answers. And that's what I want to do. I want to be able to support people who may have those answers. Answers like Kathy Strain, like Melissa, who's been out there, everybody who contributes a little bit of that critical thinking into the Bigfoot community. So with that, Kathy, what have you been up to lately?
Not much. With COVID, it's been pretty difficult to do much. I mean, we did a conference a couple weeks ago here locally. We do our usual go locally, but there isn't our usual research areas in Oklahoma, but we haven't been back there since COVID started, because it's, you have to interact with people coming and going, gas stations, restaurants, and everything. And I think that's now finally opening back up. But outside of just some local stuff, that's all we've been up to.
Right. Yeah, I think this whole COVID thing has really put, you know, constraints on everybody. A lot of us have come homebound. I know I had to quit my job during this whole thing, and I never went back. But uh, hopefully things are looking up, are really looking up. And I know some people made it a point to go out into the woods during this time to be away from people. So, and Mantra,
Sorry.
have you had any new projects or anything going on this now?
We've been kind of under the COVID umbrella quite a bit too. So Kyle and I go out a lot, just the two of us, and then on occasion we'll meet up with a friend of ours, Kenny Cecil, and we were out at the Bumping Lake area up here in Washington for quite a bit, but the fires up there have just decimated the whole area. I mean, it's
Wow.
about, I think the last time I checked, which was a few days ago, it was still about 5 miles out from the actual water, but it's just completely discombobulated everything that was up there. So we're kind of going to have to sit back for a while and see what happens. So with activity, and it was one of the biggest hotspots in that area. So for a long time. But anyway, so that's one. The other few that we go up to, it's just been kind of random right now. And it's really been weird for some reason. A couple of our favorite spots that we go to have just been totally quiet. And I don't know really if it's just the weather maybe, or I don't know what. It's just really odd. We've never had that happen before. So where there's not even deer. There's just nothing. There's no wildlife. It's just really strange. With all the fires that are kind of everywhere, maybe that's messing things up to that point. But
man, the fires have been all the way Canada, all the way down. The whole West Coast has seemed to just been taken over.
Yeah.
And I know New Mexico, we had fires. In Arizona, we had fires. It was just all through the COVID season, areas that I wanted to go look at. There's nothing there. And things that seem to have a lot of high hopes for activity. What happened? Where did they go? Where have all the animals gone? Where, I don't know.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's we were up by, where were we? Was it Mount Rainier? I can't remember. I think it was by Mount Rainier. There's a lot of hikers out there now too because of COVID. So everywhere you go, you're like, oh, I'm going to find this little spot where there's absolutely nobody. And you go down road after road and you're thinking this is a logging road. This is a logging road. And they branch off and you get way out somewhere and all of a sudden you get out of the car and you get your gear and you're like, oh, there's a whole family right over there. Where did they come from? And people with dogs and people with strollers. And you're like, what the heck? So it's so weird right now out there. Luckily, there's still some remote places, but good grief. Anything between here and Seattle going that direction, it's like there's just hikers everywhere. So I think people are bored and they want to go outside. And
we all got locked down, and
it's
dying, itching to go out.
Yeah, it's really changed things in some ways. Hopefully it'll get back to normal, but especially with the way the wildlife is right now, it's really weird. But anyway, other than that, we're going to be doing a local talk here pretty soon. I don't have the details. It's going to be in Yakima on November. I don't even know what the date is, sometime in mid-November. They're putting it back together, and it's I think Bob Gimlin's going to be there. I have no idea who else is going to be there, but it's supposed to be a very small venue and just to kind of keep the whole COVID stuff down. And they're taking all kinds of really good precautions and stuff with folks. So we're going to probably be doing everything but being sealed inside a plastic bubble, which I would be okay with that too.
Yeah, I've seen that most of the conferences have started back up and things are getting going again. People are starting to speak more, and it's good. I mean, it's scary and it's good at the same time, because I'm a people person, so I love to mingle and go around and chit chat with everybody. But And I did end up going to a conference in Virginia this last year. But in the back of your mind, you're like, oh God, do I have to wear my mask here or should I take it
Yeah.
off or what? Going back and forth. And then it was hot and you're like, oh my God, where's the air conditioning? So yeah, I hope things do kind of settle down, and it is a weird thing that you mentioned the animals have kind of like strayed, but I'm sure that has to do with the fires and what's going on around, and,
I think so.
the ability to get food, has got to really be a big strain. But Melissa,
Ma'am.
so what's new? Other than I saw you on Beast TV and you were brilliant.
Oh, thank you. Those guys were so funny. We had such a good
Yes.
time. Yeah, I've taken a huge sabbatical from Bigfoot, all things Bigfoot, for the last couple of years, and I got into I got into off-roading over COVID. That's what I got into. So it kind of meshes with the whole Bigfoot thing. So just recently I've started getting back into it, and then I was approached by um, Extreme Expeditions Northwest to work on one of their projects. And they're going to be
Oh
shooting
wow.
a movie, which is it's called The Siege at Alpha 5, and it's a fictitious movie about a bunch of vicious Sasquatch that attack this group of Bigfoot researchers, and they have to seek refuge in an abandoned military facility, and the only way they can be rescued is by these ex-military vets that happen to overhear their comm traffic. So it's going to be really fun. There's going to be all kinds of helicopters and explosions, and it's
Oh
going to be
my
crazy.
goodness.
So anyway, so I'm looking forward to that. Should be really fun. And yeah, and I'm just starting to kind of get back into finding different groups to go out and do some things with, and get back into the thing because I've missed it dearly, and so it's been fun. But I've been in the woods a lot because I've been doing a lot of off-roading, and my off-roading friends don't really they know I do Bigfoot and they tolerate me doing Bigfoot, but I can't quite sway them to combine the two um the two hobbies. So anyway, yeah, so I'm just starting to get right back into it, and hopefully I can sway some of these guys to become Bigfoot researchers as well, and we can get way back into the woods, and that'll be fun.
Oh yeah. No, you have been missed. I've noticed, I haven't seen as much of you because there was a time there where you were doing quite a bit of podcasting and stuff. I remember podcast. Were you with Henry May at
Yeah,
one
he was on my podcast.
point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Those were the good old days.
Yeah,
When
for
we
sure.
had those. So it's good to see you back around, and were you also part of the Cajun Navy?
I was, yeah, I was a part of getting
I
that
seem to
started.
remember that too. That
Yeah.
comes up every now and then when they're going through hard times in the Gulf.
Mhm.
So I hear that name and I always think about, oh, Melissa.
Yeah.
But
Yep, they're still going strong from what I understand, so that's great. They're doing good work.
that's good. That's good organization. And Monica,
Hey.
so tell me about yourself.
Oh, I've
What's
got a
going
lot.
on?
Wow. The last year and a half, I guess now, I've been really laying low because, well, a lot of businesses with COVID, their business slowed down. Our business picked up because I'm in construction. I'm in commercial construction. So I've been up to here with projects. So it really hasn't given me much time to get out into the woods and take a look at everything. I do get out into the watchtowers with my husband when I can. We get out there and go hiking around and looking for a sign. But yeah, for the last year and a half, we've been laying pretty low.
Right. And I quite assumed that, because that's everybody's life right now. It took such a big dump kind of, we all had to kind of hide our heads and our lives changed and things we normally do just haven't happened. But So if we come back around, what do you think would motivate you? Say, Kathy, how do you stay motivated searching for Sasquatch when there's a lot of negativity and hoaxes going on in the community? How does that make you feel or
Like,
react?
I personally couldn't care less what anybody thinks. So I
Mhm.
don't listen to negativity. If they want to be negative, that's their problem. It's not my problem. So,
Yeah.
and I keep motivated because I'm a witness. I've seen them, and boy, I'd sure
Right.
like to have that experience again and get them tackled and get them in a headlock and get his fingerprints and some
Right.
DNA. I'm motivated because I've seen them, and it's exhilarating, and it makes you feel
Yes.
like at least I'm a knower, because of this
Yeah.
experience. But it's just, and it's also, I like being outside. I'm an archaeologist by trade, so being
Mhm.
outdoors is a natural fit, and I could tell you all kinds of silly stories about Montra and Monica, pointing at you, Monica, because we've all been in the field together, and it's a good time just to experience outdoors. And as far as hoaxes, I've yet to see anything that didn't pick out instantaneously as being a hoax. They're just not very good at it. And then
Mhm.
there's very little effort, and there's always something that's part of the proof is out there. The show that I'm on, that's what we're doing, is picking apart videos.
Yes.
And this is just, if you're going to try to do something as a hoax, at least, give it a little something, just don't giggle halfway through your video, which is about 90% of them nowadays. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
not.
that show was definitely right up my alley. I loved it. And everything, the way the whole show's put together is quite well. I highly suggest it to anybody who's out there and likes to watch those shows, that it's on the History Channel. And again, it's called
The proof is out there.
The Proof is Out There.
Yeah.
I always want to say the out there is the proof. Anyway. So yeah, that's kind of what a lot of people want to not give too much focus on hoaxers. They want them just to go away. Is kind of like, well, if you don't pay any attention to them, they'll go away. But that's not really the case.
No,
The
and and that's true about everything. I spend a lot of time talking to people about why it's healthy to be skeptic, about anything. But there are some people that are just, their mother must have not loved them enough when they were young, and so there's never going to be anything that they believe is Bigfoot, because they just don't believe. They're never going to believe. So those people irritate me just more, because I don't believe in unicorns, and I don't go to unicorn forums or Facebook pages and then mock everybody who believes in unicorns. If you want to believe in a unicorn, it's your right to believe in unicorns, and I don't have the time and the energy to do that kind of thing. And if these people have that kind of time and energy, I'm shocked.
Yeah, I agree. Can you guys still hear me? I don't know if I froze. Okay.
Is it okay if I make a comment on what Kathy just said?
Yes, absolutely, JC. Come on in.
So there's definitely a difference between skepticism, which is I want objective evidence, and people who are just angry, disappointed, and cynical.
Yes. And those are huge differences, because even I'm a scientist, so I require evidence. If you tell me you sat and watched a Bigfoot for 20 minutes and you literally have no evidence, you didn't take a picture, your camera was in your pocket, 20 minutes, really, there's just not a history of having those kinds of extended experiences. It's like, what do you call those, habitators or whatever, who swear that they leave food out for Bigfoot and he always takes it, but there's absolutely nothing that they've got. They didn't put up a hair snag so they can at least get one piece of hair. They don't have anything other than they believe that they're feeding a Bigfoot, and every night the Bigfoot comes and gets it, even though they don't see the Bigfoot come and get it. Those kinds of things. You got no evidence. I just have no interest.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely.
Sorry.
It was right when I hit a button, so I was like, "What do I do now?" Um, and that's what it's about, staying positive. And since you ladies are actually out there doing the boots on the ground, staying positive and focusing on your own research, I'm sure that's the your number one goal. And but do you ever get like mad, when you come on and see something that you've seen every year, like oh, I don't know, any known hoaxers, Rick Dyer or something, and he comes up with a new one? And how do you feel about that? How do you overall feel about hoaxing? How about you? Who do we pack on? Monica, Melissa?
Well, it's annoying. I mean, especially if it's the same person repeatedly coming up with a bunch of baloney. And there's always the core group of diehard, gotta believe in everything, that go right along with it. And that is frustrating as can be, because it's the boy who cried wolf. I mean, if he ever did, like, let's take Rick Dyer, for example, ever did, by the grace of God, come across something solid and it was legitimate evidence, nobody's going to believe him. Nobody legitimate is going to believe him, because he's just put so much baloney out there over the years.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he hurts himself, but I believe his main motivation was all about the money.
The entire research. I mean, it's people like that with this, rubber suit in a block of ice that, propels the ridicule that we all experience in our research. When people find out what we're doing, they're like, oh yeah, okay, good. That's nice.
Yeah, I think a majority of the people who are outside of the community, they think we're all the same.
Yeah.
When inside our community, we're quite different. We all have a lot of different beliefs and a lot of little different cliques, and which is okay. Everybody can have their own opinions and beliefs and stuff, but we're different. We're, some of us are more science based and some are more paranormal based, and that's okay. That's okay, because there's not a whole lot of evidence to support either one at this point without a type specimen or something to go by. So it just gets really frustrating. And that's what, how can we do better as a community? How do you think we can do better as a community in helping to deter hoaxers? That's one of my questions. What do you think, Montra? Is there a way that we can deter hoaxers? It's going to always happen,
It's always going to happen. And really, it's the same in every fringe genre, like UFOs and ghost hunting. And I'm sorry, you're going to have to excuse the scratching at the door. It's my dog. So I mute myself, but no, not. Anyway, it's the same thing with anything that's fringy, like Bigfooting and that kind of stuff. You're always going to have people that get into the subject and want to become popular for their own reasons. They've got an agenda, whether it's like what Kathy was saying, their mothers didn't love them enough, or, something happened along the way, or they just need some sort of self-confidence because they're not good at something else. So they become some sort of either armchair researcher or hoaxer. And there's a few that I've seen over and over that somehow are believed, and I won't say names, but
oh, tell me, I'll say it.
Well, yeah, I won't go there, but
yeah,
Kathy knows who I'm talking about. So
yeah,
no,
I understand.
They're completely. Just so, and their stories are just so egregious, and you just want to strangle them, but you can't. And so there's really kind of no way to weed those people out. They'll always be there. It's just a matter of trying to keep them out of your life, basically, because they're negative. And if you end up going out with them in the field, not realizing what they were all about, and they wanted to try and hoax something, I mean, you have to be so picky with who you go out with, because you don't want your name attached to that by any means, because then your integrity goes down the toilet, and that's pretty permanent. So,
right.
So really the best you can do is, I think, my opinion is, as a researcher, is just be really know who you're out in the field with, and just try and steer clear of anybody that's maybe kind of got a different path than yours. And but it's hard to tell really until you get to know somebody, and sometimes you're in it a little bit deep and you got to back away slowly. So
yeah, I had a conversation with Thomas Steenberg, and he was saying that exactly how you were saying, you hope for the best when you go out with researchers you don't know, and you go out with good intentions. And on this particular case, he knew something was weird, and before you knew it, he started watching this fellow in the group, and the guy was throwing rocks and claiming that rocks were getting thrown at them from Bigfoot. And he says it's out there, you just have to keep your eyes open and be aware and really hope for the best and really do your due diligence. Kathy?
To unmute myself, all these buttons. You think I'd know how to unmute myself by now? I mean, after a year and a half. But I also want to just say that once you have determined that somebody is a hoaxer, it's your responsibility to make sure the community knows about it. That is what you owe us. That I saw this guy throw a rock and then he lied and said it was from a Bigfoot. And you don't have to say anything more than that, but at least now you're warning the community of what this person is. So that's what we can do, is better police ourselves.
Yes, thank you. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Is that it just shouldn't be, just sloughed off and and left at that, because he's going to go on to another group and do the same thing, and again and again and again, and we're not stopping it from happening. But I do totally understand that you don't want your good names to be smeared in any way, because whether you like it or not, there is politics in Bigfoot, and it's just part of, I don't know, the way things move around here. Somebody has connections with this person, and if you upset that person, you don't know what's going to happen. So, and it's come up with me in this show, and what a lot of people are asking me, well, who are you going to do it on? Who are you going to put on a pedestal and this and that? And I'm like, well, I'm not going to tell you. Number one, if I come out with something, I better have my dot my I's and cross my T's before I do come out with anything. But it's going to be hard for things that have happened currently for me to come out with anything without hurting somebody's feelings. People believe in Todd Standing. People believe in, things that are current right now. So that's okay if you want to, but maybe you should look into it a little more. And that's what, I want people to really look into things a little more. Don't just see that picture and say, wow, that's a great Bigfoot picture. Throw it into Google Picture and see what comes up on that photo. Oh, it came out 10 years ago, not yesterday, because that's what you find. That creature from the giant sequoias, man, people loved the way that thing ran and chased people around. And it was a student film done by Sean Bannon, and he wasn't even hiding it. But people weren't willing to go check it out. They just want to believe what they're seeing so bad. They want to believe what they're seeing. So, has anybody ever tried to hoax any of you? Do you think?
Yep.
Oh, tell me. Tell me.
Monica,
you go first.
So when I was with the TBRC back in the day, it was one of our own members who came to us with a great looking track, except it was very clear that they had taken their fingers and pushed them into the toes of the track. And they were just adamant that they found this. I can't even remember where they said they found, somewhere in North Texas. They had found this track, and I took all of a second and a half to figure out that was not a legitimate track. But yeah, I mean, and it's really disappointing when it's somebody in your own group that's trying to pull one over on you just for the want of attention. And look what I found, you know. Because I mean, and we all know we've been out there for years and years. Legitimate evidence is not the easiest thing to find. And if you're new to the group, you wander out on your first week of, you know, being a member, and you find this magnificent thing, which is, I mean, it could happen, but it's very, very unlikely.
Wow. I can't imagine, you know, kind of heartbreaking.
It
You
is.
know?
It's very disappointing. Yeah.
What do you do with that? You
You hand
kick
it
'em
back
out.
to them, "Oh, nice try." Yeah.
You know, get kicked.
And then they're no longer a member
serious.
because you have somebody with that kind of questionable judgment and morals really in your group, you know, undermining you from the inside.
Mhm.
You can't have that. I mean,
Oh,
you're struggling. I
definitely.
feel like it's a struggle already to be taken seriously, and to have something like that produced from a member of your own group is, yeah, that's a big no-no.
Wow. JC?
Well, I was just going to ask, you know, what were your next steps? And I think you've already said that. But I think I think Montra had also a story. But after that, I'd be interested to know what your perspective is when you have someone who's just recalcitrant. They're in your group, you know them, you may even like them in other circumstances, but now you're in a situation where you could get painted with the wrong brush. What would, you know, how would you guys handle that other than kind of calling them out or whatever? But please, Montra, share your story. And then I'd like to know more about, you know, to Kathy's point, you know, call them out and say, hey, this is what happened. I'm from this particular show's perspective, I'm wondering how far you guys feel you should take that information. But I'd love to hear Montra's, you know, input to this.
So this was a few years back now, quite a few years back, but my ex-husband and I had been contacted by supposedly this guy who had some footage. So we watched this footage, and he said he was out hiking with his girlfriend, I believe, and they just happened to catch this thing on camera, and etc. And yeah, it looked pretty good. You know, we were getting details from him, like where was it filmed and what time of day and blah, 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 all this other stuff. And so he was telling us the information, and we drove out to the site, and we're like, well, wait a minute though, where he's saying this was, the mountain doesn't match up as far as, you know, the top of it to the horizon doesn't match up to his film, and the type of fence is wrong, because he said it was a certain type of fence that surrounded this area. And so we're thinking, well, that's kind of weird. Okay, so there's a couple things that are wrong in what he's saying. So we tried to get more information out of him, and we started asking more and more. And then we asked if he would meet with us, and he kept refusing to meet with us. And he was saying that his girlfriend was there, she was a witness, and then she wouldn't talk to us. It was just getting more and more weird, and there were kind of some holes in it. So it turned out that after we'd wasted a whole bunch of time on it, that this was actually a production by Penn and Teller for their show called, I don't know if I can say it on air here, but Bull. And they were trying to find Bigfoot believers and researchers that would buy into this piece of footage, and so that they could go and make fun of them and do whatever they were going to do.
Oh,
And
wow.
so needless to say, we luckily weren't on the show at all. But it was a huge waste of time for us. And so just for them to try and reel in someone to say, oh yeah, it looks great, it looks real, and oh my gosh, you know, no. So
Wow. What a ruse. What,
yeah.
you know, to take it that far, you know. And how many people had they already scammed? Do we know?
Well, they did convince one person in the community who's actually really well known, who shall remain nameless. But anyway, let's see. I think their last name is 4 syllables. Anyway, but unfortunately, that person did believe it, and And they never actually said anybody's name on the show, which was nice. I was really glad about that. But yeah, it was just really wrong and really messed up. And it you know, anybody can be hoaxed to a point. And I mean, I could have fallen for it too, you know, and said, you know, it looks really real, and not gone out, not done the extra research, not asked all the questions, and believed it, and then made to look like a complete fool. And so it's just, like I said, people that do that, they have an agenda. Whether most of the time it's not to make you look bad, it's to get people to believe them and you know, build their minions to buy into whatever it is they're doing. But yeah, it was messed up. So
Wow. JC, did you have a comment on that one?
Well, I think, honestly, my reaction is how sad that a professional group wanted to take advantage of other people's good intentions in such a way. I think, honestly, that talks about character.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're mainly out for themselves and for the money, for the clicks, for the views, and money.
Money's the big one. Yeah.
Such a big motivator for many people. So, and that will stay the same, unfortunately. But in that aspect, what do you feel is the best Bigfoot evidence out there? What do you feel is like your go-to footage, photo, incident? Let you think about that. Okay, Montra, you know which one yours is.
I think for me, just personally, more so than anything I've seen from other people, with the exception of just a super, very, very few, is the stuff that I have experienced in person. That it's hard to share with the public, and I don't usually, because it's a personal experience that's made me more of a believer. I mean, I had an experience when I was a kid, and I've had some other experiences as an adult, and so having those are what has really made me believe in this.
Have you had a sighting as an adult, separated from your time when you were a child?
No. I've had some weird things that I've seen, but nothing definitive. And there's nothing that I could, even as a child, even my sighting then, I can't come out and say that was a Bigfoot for sure, because I don't know what it was. I know what it looked like and I know what it did, but I don't know what it was. It fits all the, all the buckets. So I'm, but
yeah.
So,
but you've also aligned with the paranormal field.
Right.
So I'm sure you've had a lot of seen stuff, in the paranormal.
It's funny because the paranormal, well, it's a broad spectrum when you say paranormal and stuff. But as far as ghost hunting and that kind of stuff, I have so much more, I guess I could say, concrete evidence, EVPs, things, video footage, photographs of things that, and especially experiences that I can say for sure, this was not natural. There's something here. So I can't really say that because with Bigfooting, because the experiences that I have been, like I said, very personal, and I've only got one really recording that I can go here, listen to this without having to explain it. And we've gotten tons of tracks and things, but those are things that we just, what do? You can show them to someone who's a non-believer and they'll just look at it and go, yeah, wow, well, whatever. Somebody could have made that, or, somebody could have faked that. Or so there's a big difference for me. And the same thing with like UFOs and that kind of paranormal stuff. I mean, UFOs, we don't know what those things are. And I've seen some pretty bizarro stuff in the sky, especially around Washington here, the nuclear base up here, and also out in the Uinta Basin in Utah. I've seen things that I have no idea what those were, but they were not moving in a normal way. And whether, we have the technology and they're ours, I don't know. But whatever they were not something that I can even imagine us having. I don't know. Unless we have anti-gravity stuff, which we might.
And you've always kept Bigfoot and the paranormal separated?
Yes.
Two different? Yeah. Okay.
Now, there are times when people talk about them overlapping, and there are places where these different phenomena do overlap, where people have seen, large cryptids, they've seen UFOs, they've seen different things, they've had, strange,
orbs and stuff happen.
Orbs and audio phenomena and stuff. I mean, well, like Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, that's a perfect example.
Yeah, I read that.
Everything coming together there. And one of the caretakers that's next door on the property to Skinwalker, he saw these 3 Bigfoot creatures, and they were smashing the lights out of the storage building that they had just put up. And this thing was tall. The building itself was tall. So whatever it was would have had to have been at least 7 feet tall, maybe 6.5 to 7 feet, to have the reach to get up there to whack the bulbs out. And he saw 3 of them. And he said they looked just like what you think of when you say Bigfoot. And so anyway, all of this stuff meshes in some places, and it's a really strange thing.
Mm-hmm. And Monica, what do you feel is some of the best evidence out there?
I'm so skeptical with everything that I see. And even my own experiences out in the field, I turn a real skeptical eye on anything that I've seen. And I haven't ever experienced anything in the field that I couldn't, if pushed, attribute to something else, which is difficult to say. But from the evidence that is presented out there to the public, I think for me, the most compelling is the PG film. I can't say that 100% that is a Bigfoot, but I know Bob Gimlin, and I don't believe he's a liar. Do I think he could have been fooled? Sure. But I've seen this footage, broken down in so many different ways. And even on our Monster Quest show, they did a special, I forget what they did. They did a film that they put over the actual image, and it enhanced it quite a bit. And you could see what looked to me like if a dog had his hackles up, it runs from the top of the head down the back, the hair in a ridge. And you could kind of see that in the footage. And that was very compelling to me. And while I can't say 100%, I believe that is a Bigfoot. I believe that's the best evidence that I have seen in my experience.
Yeah. I agree with you on that point. I never was 100% either. I don't know why, but I have a problem with the face. I don't know, the absent kind of look, how the hair is way down here, and then you have this absent of a hair right here like this. I don't know, it just kind of looked masky to me, always has. But I've never seen one, so I don't know. Maybe that's exactly how they look.
Yeah.
And I always had a problem with the feet. And people say they see the toes flecked up, that there's some evidence of that toe flexion. But I don't know. I just never did. But I still feel that that's still pretty compelling for that time, that era, for that type, for it to be a suit. I mean,
yeah, for the year that it came out, I mean, you compare like Planet of the Apes and that makeup, which was great for its time. It's nowhere near.
Yeah, it's not here
in this film.
So, wow. So we're coming at 6:52 here. Do you still have about 10 more minutes, Monica? Or
no? One of those beeps that you heard was them canceling my call.
Oh, well. Then I can stop looking over there. I was going to try to get her out on time for her other show.
I appreciate it.
So, Melissa, now the question comes to you. What do you feel is the best evidence out there?
I agree a lot with what Montra and Monica have both said. The personal experiences that I've had that I can't explain, that kind of mesh with all of the other experiences that I've read about in reports. I feel like that's probably number one, the best evidence to support, um, you know, what all these witnesses have seen and reported. It just jives right with that. And then I've experienced that myself. I have yet to actually see something, but I've experienced all these weird things that, jive with all these other reports. So to me, that's compelling. It makes me want to get back out in the woods and experience it more and hopefully see one. But also, I had the opportunity to interview Dr. Meldrum about the Patterson-Gimlin film from a skeptic's point of view, asking specific questions that I was repeatedly given by a skeptic to him. And to my knowledge, it's the only piece of evidence that we have that's never been successfully scientifically debunked. Actually, to the contrary, there's been all of these analysis done to support that it is something we just don't know exactly what it is. So to me, I feel like PG is probably one of the better pieces of footage that we can all probably, most of us that support the footage, we can agree that it's pretty decent footage of what that creature might be like. And it would be really exciting to actually get that kind of a view in broad daylight. I mean, that's just amazing. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
And Kathy, do you have anything to contribute to that?
Sure. I mean, I had a daylight sighting of 2, and they look exactly like Patty. There's no difference at all. That's what they look like, and I know what they are. I mean, I don't have any qualms about saying that it's a species of ape that's here in North America and probably other countries. And I 100% believe in the Patterson-Gimlin film, and I highly recommend that those of you who would like to know more about that, watch The Proof Is Out There, because that's all I can say, because I signed an NDA.
It's great. So those of you in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and open up questions. If you have any questions for any of these ladies, go ahead and put your questions in the chat. Put those in capital so I can find them quicker. And let's see, what else was I going to ask? Oh, yes. Kathy, who is your favorite group or researcher? Aside from your own, somebody else that you've just found,
Well, my husband is a researcher, so I kind of have to list him first. That probably get me in trouble. But of course, there's Montra and Monica and Melissa and stuff. Girl power. There should be more of us because we tend to be harsher on things than men. But as far as groups, I don't know. There's a lot of them out there, but I don't really look at the groups so much as I consider the individuals as if they're truthworthy, if I've known them for a long time, and so I'm more of a individual type person versus following groups. I mean, to be fair, I just don't have the time. They tell you, I've heard this rumor, you're supposed to be less busy the older you get, but I find it to be the absolute opposite. I got like stickers worth of all these to-do lists, and I got them all on different things because I can't keep all of it make any sense. But so I don't really follow any group besides my own group. And even then, I tend to let Bob handle all of that and tell me the good stuff, so I don't spend
do you
hours.
like to go out and have all the fun?
Yeah. I'm not. My life is busy as it is, and so I don't have time. And that's why the infighting or all those politics that happen on Facebook. I mean, you just have to sit back and go, why does that bother you when you don't even know that person at all? Never even met you in person, and yet get your feelings hurt by somebody who just happened to that day make that comment. It's just like, let that stuff roll off your back. And and that's part of, the issue of being Facebook, that people can just randomly start groups and they send you, join my group, and you have no idea what they're even about. And I've had that happen to me. So I just stopped joining groups because I got stuck in a UFO alien group that Dr. Johnson was running, and I was like, how did this happen? How did I get involved in this? And I'm going, I gotta get out. And I'm not that great. I have to take my phone to my son and say, get me out of this group. So so it's more of an individual, you know. If Monica Rawlins told me something, I would 100% believe her, because she doesn't play around. There's no stuff like that. And that's the type of people that I admire and respect and hang around with, and wish there was a lot more of them. So,
So with that, Kathy, I think that you're going to say that this is fair. That let's say Monica had really good information and she shares it with you. Wouldn't you take the trust but verify path?
it would depend on the person. Like, I would trust Monica and Montra with my life. I mean, I know that they would do whatever they needed to do to help me out. I don't have a million of those kinds of people, but there's definitely a good handful of people that I've already been in the field with that have demonstrated that type of thing. Now, if it was like, I don't know, randomly, I don't know, I can't think of somebody that I would want to list and get their feelings hurt. But I other people, if they told me that, I go, hey, you know, that's really cool. Do you have something to show me? Do you have anything else to go with that? But you know, but then there's certain people, like if Todd Standing came up to me and said, hey, Kathy, look at this, I just turn around and walk away. I just not interested in anything that man has to say, because, you know, you lie once, you're always a liar, and then I'm done. So, so it's, you know, I'm not saying there's, you know, like I said, there's a handful of people that I would put that in that category. Alton Higgins is one of the most special, wonderful human beings on God's green earth. That man is wonderful. And if he told me something, believe me, I would believe him.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Are you all kind of like in that same, where you have trusted people, where you feel like you wouldn't have to examine the evidence yourself, you know, or whatever? Or do you feel like, you know, for me, I really want to be hands-on and examine it myself?
I would want to examine it myself, but again, like what Kathy's saying, if you know someone and you trust them, you know. So, but it wouldn't excuse me wanting to see it myself, just so to have the experience for myself. But yeah, but if I know these ladies have researched together and they have a trust between them, so that's great. Then, you know, I feel like they're one of the first people they're going to call about something if they want an opinion on it or whatever, because they do trust them. So, but again, they're probably all going to I want to see it, show it to me. You know, I want to see what you found. So
it's physical evidence.
Just normal as a researcher and somebody that's passionate about the subject. You just want to see whatever somebody finds, especially if you think it's legitimate.
Right, because, you know, there could be very important things that you would learn from their evidence to recognize it in situations you're in yourself.
Let's put up this question from Lester. What would you consider the best evidence you have seen lately? Montra?
Well,
now, I'm assuming he's saying, you know, like online or internet or even physically. I don't know. So
online, and you'll have to forgive me because I don't really get online to look at people's stuff too often. I'll pop into Facebook now and then and wish somebody happy birthday and pop back off again. But I kind of steer clear of stuff. So I've seen some stuff, but Kyle's like more on that than I am, and he'll show me things. I'll go, hey, have you seen this yet? I don't know, what is it? I think probably the best thing I've seen lately, though, I don't know. It's probably old by now too, but there was a piece of footage, and I can't remember if it's British Columbia or not, and I don't know much about it, so the background is hazy, but it's very interesting footage, and it was of a supposed Bigfoot throwing a tree, but it was like almost like a telephone pole kind of size tree. And I believe it was at some firefighters or something like that. Again, it's hazy and I don't remember, but it was one of the most interesting pieces. I don't know about the best, but it was one of the most interesting ones I've seen in a while that wasn't obviously something, someone in a suit or something like that. So I don't know if it's been outed as a hoax. I have no idea anything else about it, but I don't know if you guys know what I'm referring to, but it was pretty cool.
I know what you're referring to, and I haven't done my due diligence on finding out the whole backstory on that. But the footage is definitely interesting because something is thrown by something, and
And it's so
well,
heavy
it's a
that,
tree.
yeah,
Something big is being thrown.
yeah.
So,
And it's,
well, I'm gonna find out, and I'll let you know.
okay, good.
Yeah. Um. So, Monica, your favorite group researcher?
My favorite group, as far as I've got to think on that. I think that the NAWAC is going to be my favorite group because I know the integrity that goes on with every person or most of the people in that group, and I trust them. I mean, Kathy is a board member, I think, or she's a member of that group. You're not a board member, but you are a member. And I know she wouldn't associate herself with a group of people that were, flying off the handle with ridiculous accusations or claims and evidence. So, and I know a lot of those members personally. And I would say if I, hard pressed to name a favorite group, it would definitely be that group.
Yeah.
And then, of
This
course,
is
my
the
favorite
group,
researchers, that is
North
them,
American Water.
are, Kathy and Montra, and I've been in the woods with Melissa. All of these ladies are wonderful and they have great integrity. And, just like Kathy trusts me, I trust her. Montra as well. And Melissa, I mean, I've never had any reason not to. And, favorite researchers is a little difficult to narrow down. There's so many great researchers in the field, but definitely these ladies are on the top of the list.
Yeah. That's why I'm just ecstatic that you were all able to be here today. I didn't actually invite Amy Boo and Shelley Covington, Montana as well, but Shelley was in the midst of getting back home from another speaking engagement, so she wasn't going to be home till tomorrow. And Amy's not feeling well, so but she wants to be in part 2, she said. She wants to be involved if I bring y'all back again sometime. So I said absolutely. So here's another question. Do you believe you have more encounters because you're a female team? That's a good question. Because a lot of people believe that having a female on the team is a good thing. That Sasquatch will come out more.
I mean, I will say that there was an incident up in southern Oklahoma, and I was out in a remote area with a group of guys that I was, part of the, forget if we were still the TVRC back then, but that group of people I was up there with, and we had a film crew with us. And normally I was the only chick on the team when we would go out. But this particular weekend, we had 2 or 3 women with us on a film crew. And I don't know if it was just happenstance or if it was because there were more women in the area, but that weekend there was an increase, like an insane increase in activity in the area that we were researching. And, normally we'll get some, whoops and, tree knocks and whatnot while we're up there. But this weekend, I had something run down a mountain at me. And, there was a lot of activity going on around the area that weekend. And again, I don't know if it was just happenstance that we were just there at the right time, or if it was because there was an increased female presence that weekend.
Yeah. I know they even talked about, women in their minstrel bringing on Bigfoot into the area. Do you believe in stuff like that? Do you think that's a possibility that could happen? Yeah, Montra.
I don't want to keep answering every question, but
No.
I just want to say that that's something that when I had whatever it was happen when I was 12 or 13 years old, that was, I think, looking back, was a big factor in whatever that was that followed me, because I had just started that for the first time. So, I might as well have, put a couple sparklers in my pockets and put bacon in my hair or something. Cause I mean, it's like, but I do believe that. And that's something that I've always been interested in, is actually having women out in the field and the results differing from those of when you're out either with men or just men. So, Kathy and I used to go out, I hate to say long ago, but unfortunately I've moved out of California, so it was long ago now, but it was just the two of us a lot. And although, we'd get to giggling about stuff, and, I'd be really concerned about where our snacks went half the time, but we had a lot of activity in some areas. And I do think that the results are slightly different. I think, though, it does depend on what it is that's in the area too. And that's my own, hypothetically, because if it's, again, I'm just throwing this out there, if it's a rogue male, if it's a family of these creatures, I don't know. But I would think if it's a male, maybe they would be a little more interested in us women, because we smell different. We've got the pheromones that we're pumping out and such. So I think that as a group of women would probably get maybe a little bit better results if it was a male. I'm just guessing. That's what I think.
And it could be, we just don't have enough evidence, I guess. But theory works out, that it could attract.
And I would just like to note that Montra does usually run around with sparklers in her pockets and bacon in her hair. So
I do. You can't see it right now, but it's actually back there. Bacon.
Oh, and I have to say, I can't believe that Melissa didn't attract a Bigfoot right away with her bacon and onion recipe that I see them cooking out there all the time. Big old
we attract
skillet.
Pretty much anything within 2 miles that comes in, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Other campers, whatever comes in.
Yeah. Okay. Oops, I let the thing screw. Where were we? We are right here. And Micah says, thoughts on Expedition Bigfoot? Have any of you seen that?
I'm going to have to hit the mute button on this one.
Would it be the same as thoughts on Finding Bigfoot?
Actually, no.
It's a TV show. It's geared for entertainment. So, I mean,
right.
To be critical of it is kind of unfair. If you've ever done TV, you know that they're rolling you towards the masses and what they feel is the entertainment for the masses. So to be critical of the Finding Bigfoot guys, or even Expedition Bigfoot, which I have never seen because I know it's geared towards entertainment and I'm good. I just don't think it's fair to as a researcher be critical of them, because they're out there, they're sticking their necks out. And yes, it is entertainment, and yes, it is what it is. But it's bringing in a new generation of potential researchers. There are kids out there watching that think that's cool, and they're getting interested in it. And maybe that'll cause them to dig in a little bit more, because I know as a child I was interested in it, and my grandfather encouraged it, and I read books and folklore and all of that. So that led me into the research, and I'd love to know that TV show or any of the TV shows are doing that for the next generation of researchers.
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, we all started somewhere watching, In Search of, or what have you, the documentaries that used to come out, in the late 70s, early 80s, and they were just grabbed you, You just wanted to hear that narrator talk. I could just listen to him talk about, especially Monster Quest and, the beginning of that. And it was just totally intriguing and kept you wanting to come back every week to watch the next show, for sure.
So I have a question while you look for questions in the list, if
Yes.
that's okay.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm a scientist, and Kathy already knows where I'm going, okay? Because she's a scientist too. So I'm a scientist, and I am aware of the minimum requirements for establishment, right? Science, academics, government, for establishment, not entertainment, but establishment, to accept this as a right now unidentified large mammal in North America. In your individual experience and opinions, what do you think the minimum requirements would be, and how far along in that path do you, for yourself, do you feel you've come?
Who's going to answer?
I'll take it.
Okay.
It's going to take a body or a body part, something that other scientists can examine uh, and have their opinion on it. You know, they can get DNA. It would be nice to have a full body, because then you could, you know, examine brain size. You could look at the throat. Is it capable of, you know, tongue thrust to be able to speak, or other noises? You're going to want to have as much as you could, you know, get food particles out of the intestine so you can tell what it eats, that kind of stuff that will tell you a little more about what the species is. But I honestly do not believe DNA, even though we have the environmental DNA now. I don't think we can tell the difference right this minute out of Homo sapiens sapien DNA in an environment than maybe what this is. Not saying it's human, of course, but we don't. You always have to have that type species in order to put it on the tree. You know, we have to know where it belongs. Is it only over here in the ape, chimpanzee, gorilla section, or is it further up that branch where we broke off for our evolution, or what, you know? Or is this really an extinct human species that we didn't know still existed? I mean, I'm just speculating, not saying anything with what it could be, but the body is what's going to show it, because then you can replicate the tests over and over again. So if this one scientist says this, the next scientist can come and duplicate that, and the next scientist can come and duplicate that. That's how science works. And so until that part, it's a hypothesis until it gets tested and it becomes a theory. So,
And do you think that we're going to get there? Do you think that
I hope
next
so.
5,
There's
10
lots of-
years maybe?
There's a
Or
lot of groups
sooner?
out there. There's a lot of groups out there seeking to provide that proof, because we're also hoping as one body. God forbid, if science goes, no, we want 102, that could be the whole population in one little area. And I'm not willing to do that. I think it's an endangered species and needs to be protected under the Endangered Species Act. But yeah, I'm hopeful. But I've been hopeful for a very long time. I was certain when I got into Bigfoot from Legend of Boggy Creek when I was a little girl, and I would have sworn then that by the time I got in high school, there would have been proof. And no,
That would have been
those
that, yeah.
little turkeys.
Just briefly on that note about species that we're losing, it just came out, the list for this year. I believe this is for U.S. and Canada. 23 species have gone extinct, including the largest woodpecker. And I'll send you that link, Nikki, in case you want to post it somewhere.
Sure.
I think Kathy's bringing up an excellent point, because this is not just about so far accepted large mammal. It's about our environment and caring for our environment. And, you know, as the environment degrades, it's going downhill for everyone, including this animal that is all of your area of interest.
Yeah. And I work for the Forest Service, and I closely with our biology department, and we just got, I think it's the red fox. Is that right? We have to think about its habitat critical, and and that changes for us all the time. Where now it's this species, now it's this species, because in order for any animal, human, whatever, to survive. We have to have our basic needs met. We have to have water, we have to have food, and we have to have shelter. We have to be able to rest and feel safe when we're resting. And once you start heading down this other path, then everybody's competing for the same resource. We're all wanting that same water source. We're all wanting that food resource. We're all wanting that one tree that's still standing so we can sleep underneath it. And that's not sustainable. And that's the way it is, whether people like it or not. That's just the plain truth. So,
do you have any thoughts on how big the population is? Have you thought about, do you think it's a smaller number? Because there are people who say there's thousands and thousands of Bigfoot in, the United States or in North America. And I don't see that. I think that it's quite smaller, enough for a population to keep having, babies and stuff. But I
it
don't
has to be
think
a
it's,
breeding population. But
yeah.
I get asked that a lot, and I said, I don't. Melissa probably has an opinion. You should ask her.
How many Bigfoot are there, Melissa?
I mean, well, the thing doesn't exist. So how do I answer that question? Right.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
I don't know. I don't know how many there are, but there's clearly more than one. There's clearly more than just one, right? People see
Yes.
families of these things, and they have been documented globally. So they're all over. So, do the math. There's probably several hundred out there, but I don't, that's just a stab in the dark. I have no idea. We don't know enough. A lot of these questions are just, how can we answer them? Because it hasn't been proven to exist yet. So we can't take a census of the population. We have no idea. So,
and that's the right answer. I mean, you'll find so many groups out there that are willing to put numbers out there. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, how do you know? Are you out there counting them? How do you know? How can you tell me that there's, 100,000 Bigfoot in this area? Well, if you take the deer population and then you take the bear population and how, I don't see how they can manipulate those numbers to come out with an accurate number for Bigfoot.
Well, some people are making kind of educated guesses, and some people are having favorite numbers, right? And you have everything kind of in between. It often goes that way with these things that are, kind of unknown.
I think years ago, Dr. Meldrum had said something about there would have to be a breeding population of around 2,000 in order to sustain the species. I don't know if that's true. This is years ago. But I think his was just an educated guess at the time. Again, it's just from him compiling whatever he had to try and figure that out at the time. So, but yeah, there's no way of knowing. Really, there isn't. So their numbers could be misleading for all we know.
I kind of believe that I think they're a little bit like us human, where we have different races. We have different types. Do you feel that way, Kathy? Do you feel that maybe up in Canada, they're a little bit bigger, they could be a little meaner, and down in the South in Florida that they call the swamp ape, maybe they're a little smaller, hairier, orange colored? There's a lot of orangutan color.
Well, first of all, I want
to. Meaner.
It is not meant to be, correcting you or anything, but I get very irritated when I hear the term race, black race, white race. We're all the same race. We're Homo sapiens sapiens.
Yep.
The differences between our skin color and our hair color, eye color, is diversity. It's your ethnicity of where your people evolved. It has nothing to do with anything. That's why we can all interbreed with each other, because if we were different races, that may not necessarily be, possible. So let's get that through. So do I think Bigfoots have different ethnicity? Yeah, I do. I think that every species has an advantage. That's how evolution occurs. And certain Bigfoot, I believe they're all the same species, because I can't believe there's 15 different unknown primate species living in just North America. That's not logical. It's one species that then adapted to their environment based on what their needs are. And so why would a Yeti be white? If they are white, is because they maybe are hanging around in an environment where the white fur or hair gives them advantages over other animals. And so I think that's the logical thing. Are they taller in one area? Well, being taller gives them the advantage of reaching higher into maybe a tree to get a food resource that they need. Or the shorter ones are related to me and they're really chubby and they put on lots of calories in the winter. You just don't know. So I think it's, once you get settled into an environment, just like, the Hobbit man from Indonesia, he is the size needed for the environment because he was on an island, and being any bigger, like what a normal Homo sapien would have been a disadvantage to him. So yeah, I think there's different hair color, eye color, thin, tall ones, short, little fat ones. I think that's just the gamut of what humans have.
Yeah, I agree.
There is one thing I just want to jump in real quick with this. There's a guy named Pete Travers who has a sketch project. I don't know how long ago he's updated it, but he was drawing people's almost like a police artist type sketches of Bigfoot from people's reports. And it's really interesting to look at if you ever get a chance to see it. What's the name of his website now? I think it's called the Bigfoot Sketch Project. I'll have to look and see what it is, but it's Pete Travers, and it's a little bit hard to find when I've had to look for it online. But it's super, super interesting. He's got all these different head drawings and then full body drawings from people's renditions of what they saw, and they're so different. I mean, like amazingly different, and it's really something to take a look at. The Painted Cave. That's what it's called. The Painted Cave.
Oh. Painted Cave.
Yeah. In fact, I should make sure I'm right on that here. Let me check my phone. I can send you a link, though. I don't know if you would like that.
Yeah, you can just send me the link, then I'll add it onto the description below.
Okay.
Jay Birch from Bigfoot Barbecue and Camp Cookbook says, will Montra come to Mount St. Helens?
Sure. Yeah. I'd love to.
And he'll probably cook for you.
Hey.
It's definitely a plus. I've seen his show.
Yeah, so
Very cool.
So Jay has an area where he had a sighting with his wife, and they've had some interesting experiences there. And some of the guys that are kind of like in this loose group that we have been there and are looking at that. So, would it be okay if Jay sent you some information?
Oh, certainly. You bet. That'd be great. Thank you.
Oh, definitely. Here's one more question. Government cover-up. What do you think, Melissa?
I think yes. I think yes. I think the government knows they're there.
How about you, Montra? Monica?
I have no proof, but I kind of got a feeling that they probably already know a lot more than they're letting on.
It wouldn't surprise me. I agree with Montra. They know way more than they're letting on about a lot of things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the same as covering up? It's kind of like, is silence the same thing as a lie? Is them not officially recognizing it the same thing as covering up? Or do we feel like they're taking actions which are kind of sketchy?
I think I personally believe that they know that this creature exists, that there have been sightings among government agents that have seen it, that they know, and they have their reports, and so I think the cover up is that they just keep thinking we're all a bunch of whacks and keep running with that front story so that they don't have to take a census of the population. They don't have to cut out taxes to protect this animal. That's what I think.
And if the ladies would comment on this, because what you did was just basically on the fringe of what I was going to ask. What do you think the impacts would be to land use if this was recognized as a large mammal in North America that needed protection? What are your thoughts about that?
That would disrupt a lot of money, especially in the Pacific Northwest with the paper companies.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that all happened with the spotted owl as well.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff going on there. I mean, with any species that, they're trying to protect, all that big business is in trouble.
But the spotted owl, it's so ironic, right? Because now it's endangered because of the barred owls came up through the tree populations in Canada and then came in and basically invaded a territory that was not their own. And they probably came in because of humans increasing trees, right? And making a bridge of trees over there. And now they could wipe out that population, regardless of these other factors, and that kind of thing often reminds me of that area of well-intended bad advice, which I think we've all seen.
Yes, and I would also the large wildfires that we're having now. One of our greatest concerns is we set aside these packs for spotted owls, and those packs are in the worst condition possible. They are just ripe to burn, and then we're going to lose all the spotted owls anyway because we can't treat what's in those packs. And there's always a balance, and that's where we're always either really super high or way down low, when there has to be a medium where we're doing what's right across the board. And we know we can get there. We just got to get there. So, and my only comment about it, I wouldn't be surprised if the government knows that Bigfoot it exists, but in order for them to cover up, they'd have to be a lot brighter than what they are. And I work for the government. We're not too bright.
Yeah, I give that 110% correct.
How can we fix that? How? I don't know. I don't see how in the future, what needs to be done in the future to help the wildlife, help it if with everybody has to be on the same, mindset, the same line of thinking. Like you said,
Bigfoot activist group.
I mean, we're not going to hopefully do something where all of a sudden they're going to be protected and they want to put them in reservations. How are they going to get them to go to reservations? Not going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to do that. We can't even find them normally. How, are we going to, well, you got to count them. How are we going to count them? There's just so much other stuff that has to be done before we can even start making a lot of those decisions.
One of the best advice I've ever been given is stop worrying about the little stuff. We just need to prove they're real first, and then everything else will fall in line. But we don't need to worry about what then, because we right now don't even have a proven species. So that's
right.
Not speculate.
Yeah.
Right. And that is the goal. So any more questions in the chat? We did the government cover up.
While you're searching, I do have one more question, and it's kind of like a forward-thinking question, because I think we're kind of getting towards the end. It's been an hour and a half, and I want to say it's been a pleasure meeting you all. Thank you for spending time with us and sharing your insights, because it has value. And if it inspires someone to make better choices going forward, it's for sure, I think, worth 90 minutes of our time. So what do you guys see as your next steps going forward, assuming things get better sooner, because we're all in this weird flux time and it's unpleasant. But as things get better, do you see that you're going to kind of stick to the same path that you feel is pretty tried and true for you? Or are you interested in doing some things differently where you'd like to, where you'd be willing to share how you like to look at things differently or how you'd like to go about them differently?
Let's start with Monica.
I think I would stick to my tried and true methods of research, but in progression, in just logical thinking, you have to be open to to new ways of thought and to new experiences. So while I would continue, and I plan to continue with the methods that I have done for the last several years, if something new pops up or if somebody has a different insight or a different method that is interesting, I am more than open to listening to them and trying different research methods.
That's good. Melissa?
I kind of echo Monica's sentiments. I think one thing that I am doing differently now, since I have taken such a long sabbatical from it, and I'm starting to get back into it, is I'm taking more time to look at people that I respect or have known about their research. I'm kind of watching and following their research more closely and just learning to see, just trying to learn from them, see if there's anything they're doing that I hadn't considered doing. It may not be possible. They might be in a different part of the country, from me or where my target areas are. And but some of the stuff, might be doable, might be something I could try here and see if that works just as well for them, for me here as it does for them there. So that's one thing that I going forward that I see myself changing a little bit, is doing a little more research on how to do the research by following more closely other people that are having some success and people that I respect and have a proven track record of success.
Mm-hmm. And Montra?
You'll have to forgive me because I missed half the question. I had a dog incident. So I guess I'm guessing the question is pretty much, are we going to continue what we're doing?
Yeah. How?
Okay. So for me, I think probably we're going to continue. And Kyle and I do a lot of research that we've kind of been doing the same old, and we're trying to kind of keep our minds open to other things, as hard as it is with some of the weird stuff that we've had happen and things. It's another long story. But anyway, I think for us, one of the things that bothers me is I know doing the same old thing over and over, you're going to get the same old results over and over. So we are trying to change things a little bit in places that we do research, different types of things that we do as far as going out and looking for things. We're just trying to change it up slightly. There's not a whole lot you can do different, but using different kinds of equipment that maybe we haven't used before. One of the things I regret is not having something on that's recording all the time, because we've heard some things that I wish I would have got on recording. But so I guess for us, we're trying to change it as much as we can. I know, Kathy's group has tons of amazing things that they've done as far as, experiments and things, and they've gotten amazing results. So we may start doing things more like what her group has done, as much as we can. But hopefully not the same old results eventually for us anyway.
Mm-hmm. Right. And Kathy, are things going to get bigger for you? You're going to go out now that things have kind of lightened up with the COVID? Any expeditions in the future?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And as far as what everybody else has said, I mean, science is a process. And if you don't take the opportunities to learn new things, that's the opposite of what science is. Science is a constant learning process. And I wish I did have better equipment, just it was my personal stuff, but nobody will give me landmines or bazookas to,
We'll get you one.
when you just had all you can take, and you just like, one year I wanted some napalm because I just was like, I'm just going to burn down those trees and they won't be able to do anything to me anymore. Teach them. But yeah, as far as, I mean, the equipment nowadays is becoming so much cheaper and so much, like we do have these recorders that record 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It's annoying to go through them, but we have gotten some very good information off of them. And so that's the one thing, is that this last year and a half, we haven't purchased any new equipment. We've serviced equipment, but not, bought anything new. And I think that's the wave of the future, is getting some of that more high tech, actually trying to learn them without having to have a degree in how to turn something off and on. That's where I'd like to go forward. New things.
Good. That's great. And we look forward to seeing what you all have to offer, coming up in the future. And so, Kathy, if we wanted to go find your information, would we find that on your Facebook or on the woodape.org or
Both, both.
both?
Yeah, and I highly recommend. There's lots of stuff to read on the woodape.org website for some of the things that we have tried that have been very, very successful. We use a lot of wildlife techniques, like tagging animals and stuff like that, and we found that very useful. And so, yeah, that's where you can find information.
Yeah, I really want to read up on that tag 7 that everybody's talking about. I really want to go and do that for sure. And Melissa, we would find you on your Bigfoot chick adventures. Is that where we would find most of your outings and information?
Yep, that's the place.
Okay. And Montra, where would we find most of your stuff? On the Columbia Sasquatch?
Oh, that is so outdated. Oh,
That
goodness.
one?
I
Okay.
think, yeah, that's really, really outdated. Kyle and I've been way too busy to even mess with it. But someday, if anybody needed to contact me, they could just shoot me an email. Is probably the best way. And it's just Montrafreitas, Freitas, at gmail.com. So,
All right. And Monica, for you, how would we find your information about your research? Or do you tag it onto another group, or you're just holding it for yourself?
But all to myself. I really do keep to myself, but if you Google me, you will find a lot of information about the different research that I've done. And if you had any questions, you could email me as well. And my email address is mm.rawlins17@gmail.com.
Awesome. That's perfect. Well, ladies, I so appreciate you coming on here and chatting with me for a little while about Bigfoot, because I love it, all of it. And I hope we all continue to look for answers. And on a note for my viewers, don't forget that I've got coming up my Happy Squatchoween Spooktober 24th. So my guests who come are going to be dressed up and we're going to have a little fun, and it's just going to be open mic. We're just going to talk about anything and everything and have some fun that day because Halloween, I will be doing Halloween with my kids. So that's why we will be having it early. So I hope to see everybody for that show, and also tune in for next week's show. I am not letting anybody know what it's going to be about yet, but it's going to be another great show. So ladies, anybody have any final thoughts? Just thank you for coming. Definitely. Kathy, Montra, Monica, Melissa. It was fun. I appreciate you coming and letting me know what your thoughts are. And I am going to throw you all in the back, and I will be there shortly.
bye-bye. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Oops, I brought you back. Everybody, thank you so much for being here and sharing this show with me. Please like it, share it, and that's how I can get the word out about the show and have more people involved. I appreciate it so much. Thank you again for being here.